Good morning, students. We are reading chapter number 6 on the face of it from the book Vistas, and we have already read till now that Mr. Lamb and Derry they had a meeting, and it was a coincidence that both are actually physically handicapped, both are physically impaired, and one of the person he has lost his leg, and at the same time another boy who also had a deformity in his body, and he actually had a deformity in his face. He had a burnt face. Now Mr. Lamb is very peculiar. He is really a strange personality. He was such a man who was full of optimistic attitude. He was very hopeful in his life. He had a positive attitude, and he was trying to motivate Derry also. He was trying to inspire Derry that he also had everything in his life and he should try to live his life to the fullest. And now Mr. Lamb was giving another example through a very beautiful story, because he noticed that Derry did not want to come near people. He really wanted to be alone. He was looking for solitary places. He was always looking for solitude. So Mr. Lamb actually told him that this was actually not the solution of this problem, and Derry had to learn. He actually had to learn how to come across people, how to face all these things. He could not run away from the world. Then Mr. Lamb and when Derry says that he did not like being near people, and when because the people they stare at him, stare means they actually look continuously at his face with amazement or maybe with fear. They got panicky when I see them being afraid of me, because he noticed that the people were afraid of him, and that is why he did not want anybody's company. Mr. Lamb says you could lock yourself up in a room and never leave it. Now, this is very important. This is actually a very inspiring story. Very, you can say, a story full of morals plus full of a good lesson. He says that Derry had got the chance, means he had the you can say chance to lock himself up inside a room, because there was a man who did that. There was a person who did the same thing as Derry was trying to do for himself. He says he was afraid, you see, of everything, everything in this world. And this is actually page number 62. He says that he was afraid of everything, everything in this world. A bus might run over him, or a man might breathe deadly germs onto him, a donkey might kick him to death, or lightning might strike him down, or might he might love a girl and the girl would leave him, and he might slip on a banana skin and fall, and people who saw him would laugh their heads off. So he went into his room and locked the door and got into his bed and stayed there. Now, this was the story that was told by Mr. Lamb to Derry. Why? Because Mr. Lamb actually wanted him to get out of his shell. He wanted him to take the risk. He wanted him to face people, because nobody would be able to have a lonely life. Nobody would ever be able to live the life to the fullest alone without facing people. Nobody could run away from the harsh realities of life. So he says, because that man, because in the story, the person was actually a man who was afraid of everything. He thought that maybe a bus would run over him, or maybe some person would actually breathe some deadly germs onto him, or he also thought that he actually assumed that maybe a donkey would kick him to death, or maybe lightning might strike him, or maybe he would be in love with a girl and the girl would ditch him or cheat him or leave him. And he also thought that if he would go out of his house, maybe he would get slipped on a banana skin and the people would laugh at him. So all these things were actually full of risk. So he went into his room and he locked the room and got into his bed and stayed there. Now Derry asked, "Forever?" Mr. Lamb said, "For a while." And Derry asked him, "Then what?" Mr. Lamb says, "A picture fell off the wall onto his head and killed him." Now, this is again a very peculiar story told by Mr. Lamb. And he says, "A picture fell off the wall to his head and killed him." Now, Derry actually enjoyed this story and he understood that what was the message that Mr. Lamb wants to give him. And he started laughing because he understood that a person could not run away from the realities, from the people. And Derry started laughing because that person, even though he locked himself up, he could not run away or escape his death. Mr. Lamb says, "You see, Derry, but still say peculiar things." But Derry was again complaining that Mr. Lamb was saying a lot of things which were peculiar. Peculiar means strange. Really odd things are said by Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb says, "Peculiar to some." "What do you do all day?" Derry says. Now, Derry was showing his anxiety. He was showing his, you can say, eagerness to know something more about Mr. Lamb. For second or third time now, Derry was showing that he was interested in somebody's life at least. And he said, "What do you do all day?" Mr. Lamb says, "Sit in the sun, read books." "You thought it was an empty house, but inside it's full. Books and other things full." But Mr. Lamb again told him a fact about himself. He says, again to inspire this boy, he says that he generally sits in the sun, he read books, and maybe Derry was thinking that the house was empty, but it was not an empty house because it was actually full of books. The books actually filled that empty space, and that is why the house was not empty, it was full of books. Derry says, "But there aren't any curtains at the windows." Now, this is again very important. Derry asked a question that why there were no curtains at the windows. Mr. Lamb says, "I am not fond of curtains. Shutting things out, shutting things in. I like the light and the darkness and the windows open to hear the wind." Now, this is again very, very important. This is again to inspire Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb says that because he wanted to inspire Derry, he says that he was not, you can say, fond of curtains. He did not like curtains. Why? Because shutting things in or shutting things out, he did not want this. He actually wanted to give, you can say, opportunity to all the things which were out to come inside and to see through the windows whatever is there outside. Means he did not want to shut things. And I like, because he says that he liked the light and the darkness and the windows open to hear the wind. Means he really liked the light also and he liked the darkness also, and at the same time he really keeps the windows open. Why? Because he wanted to hear the wind, he wanted to enjoy nature, he wanted the wind to come inside. He did not like to stop anything outside or inside. Derry says, "Yes, I like that. When it is raining, I like to hear it on the roof." Now, for the first time, Derry showed his interest and he showed a very important thing about him. He says, "Yes, I like that. When it is raining, I like to hear it on the roof." What is the meaning? That Derry was showing his interest in nature and he says that he likes to hear the sound of the rain, the sound of the raindrops on the roof. It means that Derry also enjoys nature as Mr. Lamb does. Mr. Lamb says, so you are not lost, are you? Not to altogether. You do hear things, you listen. Means Mr. Lamb says it means that Derry was still alive. He was still interested in things. He was still enjoying nature. It means that he was not lost. Means he was still having that zeal and enthusiasm to live life to the fullest. Derry says, then talk about me. They talk about me downstairs when I am not there. What will he ever do? What is going to happen to him when we have gone? However, will he get on in this world looking like that with that on his face? That is what they say. Now, Derry says that all these things, all this paragraph, whatever he has said, all these things are generally said by the people, by the elderly people of his house, or maybe by the neighbors, by the people who actually are really worried about Derry and his future. The people, when he is upstairs, the people and his mother, they talk about him, and they say that how Derry would ever be able to face the harsh realities of life with that half face, with his burnt face, how he would be able to face the people. And they say that what will he ever do? Means what will Derry do? This is how they talk about him. And he also have heard that what is going to happen to him. They say, they ask each other when they would be gone, means after their death, how Derry would be able to face the realities of life. His family talks about him. However, will he get on in this world? Means how he would be facing such harsh realities. Looking like that means with that burnt face, with that on his face, that is all they say. Means he had heard, Derry had heard that people, his mother, and the elderly people of in his life, they actually talk about him, they actually are worried, they have a lot of doubt in their mind that how Derry would ever be able to face the harsh realities of life, how he would face people, because he was not so strong, because according to them he would never be able to face the realities of life with half or burnt face. This is page number 63 now. Lord, boy, you have got two arms, got two legs, eyes and ears. You have got a tongue and a brain. You will get on the way you want, like all the rest. And if you chose and set your mind to it, you could get on better than all the rest. Now, Mr. Lamb at last wanted to inspire this boy. He heard some of the very bad things which were said by the people for Derry. But Mr. Lamb now wants to inspire him, and he wants to make him positive in his attitude. He wants to give that positivity to Derry. And he says that he should not listen to all those things because he still means Derry had got two arms, he had two legs, he had ears, eyes, all these things. He had got a tongue also and a brain. According to Mr. Lamb, the boy was having everything in his life, because maybe half of his face was lost, but other things, all the other body parts were intact, and he could do things better than anybody else in this world. You will get on the way you want means he could achieve anything. You will get on the way means he could achieve anything in his life, and he should not feel inferior to others like all the rest. And if you chose and set your mind to it, you could get on better than all the rest. Means if he would set a target for himself, if he would set an aim or an objective for himself, he could get on better than all the rest. Means he could achieve anything better than the rest of the people. Derry says, how? Same way as I do. Now Derry was really enchanted. He got interested in knowing that how he could face the realities of life, how he could achieve something in his life. Mr. Lamb says, same way as I do. Derry says, do you have any friends? Hundreds. Now Derry wanted to ask, how many friends did Mr. Lamb have? Mr. Lamb replied, he said hundreds. Derry says, but you live by yourself in that house. It is a big house too. Means Derry again wanted to ask, then if he had hundreds of friends or so many people in his life, so why he was living by himself? Living by himself means why he was alone. Why he was alone in that house? Why he had nobody with him? Mr. Lamb says, friends everywhere. Now, this is very, very important because this shows the positivity. This shows the, you can say, positive attitude, the hopefulness. Look at the wide attitude. Look at the open heartedness of this man. Mr. Lamb tells Derry that he had friends everywhere. This is how you see life. Because if you think that all people are your friends, then you need nobody because everybody is your friend. People come in, everybody knows me. The gate is always open. They come and sit here, and in front of the fire in winter, kids come for the apples and pears, and for toffees, I make jelly, toffee with honey. Anybody comes, so have you. Now, Mr. Lamb again wants to inspire him. He says that this is your attitude because Mr. Lamb thinks that everybody who comes in is his friend. Because he always keeps the gate open because Mr. Lamb wanted people to visit him because Mr. Lamb always had a desire to meet people. He always wanted that the people should come inside without asking. So the gate was always open. They come and sit here and in front of the fire also. Means he actually generally in winter season, this is again very important because to attract people from outside, Mr. Lamb in winter season, he would put some fire just in front of the house in the garden. Why? Because he wanted people to come inside, because he wanted to come across people, because he enjoyed company of the people. And he says for kids he had apples and pears. Means kids also would come inside his house or his garden. Why? Because they would get attracted by apples and pears. And for toffee also. Then he says, I make toffee with honey. Anybody comes, so have you. Means that is why he had toffees for children. He had, you can say, fire in the winter season for the young people, or maybe for the people who wanted to get warmth inside. And he always had the gate open. Why? This shows that Mr. Lamb was such an optimistic man. He was such a open-minded, open-hearted person who always wanted to enjoy his life with others, and he wanted to attract people. He wanted their company. Derry says, but I am not a friend. But Derry was having so many doubts, and he says that he was not his friend. Certainly, Mr. Lamb said, certainly you are. So far as I am concerned, what have you done to make me think you are not? Means Mr. Lamb wanted to ask that how he could prove it, because according to Mr. Lamb, Derry was his friend, and Derry had not done anything that he should not be taken as friend by Mr. Lamb. Derry says, you don't know me. You don't know where I come from, or even my name is. Means Derry wanted to ask. Derry wanted to know that how they could be friends, because Mr. Lamb did not know anything about him, did not know his name or anything about him. Mr. Lamb says, why should that signify? Now this is very important. What is the meaning of this line? Why should that signify? Means that these things are not important. Mr. Lamb says that this is not important. What was his name? Where he comes from? What was his family background? All these things are not important. Do I have to write all your particulars down and put them in a filing box before you can be a friend? Means these formalities were not important, because Mr. Lamb says that it was not important to know all the things about Derry. And if they actually had to become friends, were there any formalities to be completed Had they to, you can say, make a file of this and you can say fill the particulars down? No, it was not important. You don't have to make a file of your friends and fill the particulars, what is their date of birth and father's name. It is not important. According to Mr. Lamb, they were friends and it was not important what their name, what the name was, what was the name of this person, or from where he comes from. Derry says, I suppose no. Mr. Lamb, you could tell me your name if you chose, and not if you did not. Mr. Lamb says, I don't want to know your name, but if you want to tell me, then you can. Derry says, Derek. He says, Derry was his name, and then he says, only it is Derek, but I hate it. Means he really hate this name. He really hate to be called as Derek, because the people who come in contact with him or who are friendly with him, they call him Derry. Derry is the name that is liked by Derry for himself. If I am your friend, you don't have to be mine. I choose that. And then Derry also says that if I am your friend, you don't have to be mine. Means maybe Mr. Lamb was taking Derry as his friend, but according to Derry, Mr. Lamb was not his friend. Mr. Lamb says, certainly. Derry, Derry says, I might never come here again. You might never see me again, and then I could not still be a friend. Derry says that it was not possible. Why? Because they could not be friends. Because maybe this is their last opportunity to see each other. Maybe this is their last meeting. And after this, they would never see each other again. And they could not be called as friends. Mr. Lamb says, why not? Derry says, how could I? You pass people in the street and you might even speak to them, but you never see them again. It does not mean they are friends. Means again, Derry wanted to tell, and he wanted to ask that how the people could be friends. Why? Because they had not seen each other before, and maybe this is their last meeting. And these kind of meetings are very general, they are very ordinary meetings. Why? Because they come across people when they go to the market, and these people could not be called as friends. Derry says that he could not call all those people friends who come across with him, or the people whom he generally meets when or come across when he go to the market or anywhere. And these people could not be called as friends because they don't know anything about each other. This is page number 64. Mr. Lamb says, does not mean they are enemies either, does it? Mr. Lamb again wanted to ask Derry that how he could say that these people were not friends, because they were also not called as enemies, because they had no enmity. So why they couldn't be called friends? Because there is no enmity, because they had no fight. Derry says, no, they are just nothing people, that's all. Mr. Derry says that he was trying to tell that they were nothing, because there was nothing between them, because they had no friendliness or no enmity. So it means that they are nothing. These people are not important for Derry or for anybody else. Mr. Lamb says people are never just nothing, never. But Mr. Lamb says that people cannot be said as nothing. Derry says, there are some people I hate. Mr. Lamb, that would do you more harm than any bottle of acid. Acid only burns your face. Now this is very important fact that is told by Mr. Lamb to him. Because Derry had told him a secret. Derry had told him that he really hated some people. He really had disliking for some people. But Mr. Lamb said, and he inspired him not to have hate for anybody, because according to Mr. Lamb, hatred or hate or ill feeling for others is more harmful than that acid, because acid would have burned his face, but this you can say anger, this kind of, you can say, ill will is actually worst than anything else in this world, because this is really dangerous to have that hatred for somebody or hate for somebody in your heart. Derry said, only, Mr. Lamb, like a bomb, only blew up my leg. There is worse things can happen. You can burn yourself away inside. Means, according to Mr. Lamb, a bomb can blew a leg only. Means only physical deformity could happen, could occur because of a bomb explosion. And there is worse things can happen. You can burn yourself away. Now this is very, very, very important thing that is said by Mr. Lamb. He wanted to tell a fact to Derry, that if Derry would be keeping such hatred and ill will and anger for others inside his heart, then one day he would be burning himself, because such anger, such ill will, such hatred could burn himself. Derry says, after I had come home, one person said he would have better off stopping in there, in that hospital, in the hospital. He would be better off with others like himself. She thinks blind people only ought to be with other blind people, and idiot boys with idiot boys. Now Derry says that some people, they think that Derry should be kept with the people like him, because according to them, the blind people should be kept with the other blind people, and maybe the physically handicapped people, the impaired people, should be kept with the other physically impaired people, or maybe idiot boys, mad people with the mad people. Mr. Lamb says, and people with no legs altogether. Means, Mr. Lamb says, according to him, according to these people, then he also should not live there, because he should be kept with the other people, because he was lame, so he also should be kept with the lamey people. Mr. Derry says, that's right. Mr. Lamb asked him, what kind of a world would that be? What kind of world these people are imagining? What kind of, you can say, situation, what kind of circumstances, what kind of world they wanted to make? Derry says, at least there would be nobody to stare at you, because you were not like them. Derry says that at least he would come out of his trouble, because he did not want to be stare at by anybody. So at least, because everybody would be same, because all the lame people, all the people without faces, or maybe with bad ugly faces, they would be together, then they would not be staring at each other. Mr. Lamb says, so you think you are just the same as all the other people with burned faces, just by what you look like? Everything is different, everything is the same, but everything is different itself. Now Mr. Lamb again wanted to inspire him by telling him, and he wanted to make him understand that all the things were not important to be heard, and all the things were actually relevant sometimes, and sometimes they did not signify anything. And according to Mr. Lamb, he says, you think you are just the same. Means, what does he think about himself? Does he think that all the people were same as all the other people with burned faces? Means all the people with burned faces were similar? No. Mr. Lamb says, just by what you look like. Means, just because your physical features are same, because all the people who are actually living together, they have no legs, so does it mean that all these people, they are same? No, it cannot be, it cannot happen, because all the people, they are different in their different ways, they are special in different ways. All the fingers are actually not of the equal length. Just by what you look like, everything is different, everything is the same, but everything is different. Mr. Derry says, how you do make all that out? Means, Derry was confused that what actually Mr. Lamb wants to tell him, and he asked that how Mr. Lamb was actually having all these thoughts in his mind, how he could speak about such things in a different way. Mr. Lamb says, by watching, listening, and thinking. Now this is his mantra of life. This is the thing that Mr. Lamb does to understand life. This is the thing that actually makes him so optimistic. Mr. Lamb says he actually was able to make all these things out. Make things out means how he understands all these things. He understands all these things. He is able to have a purposeful life just by watching, by listening, by thinking. I would like a place like this. Now, Derry was showing his interest. He says that he really like that place, a garden. I would like a house with no curtains. It means that he started liking, he started showing his, you can say, likeliness for Mr. Lamb. He was showing his interest in Mr. Lamb and the things, because he liked the garden also. He liked those windows without curtains and everything that was kept by Mr. Lamb, that belongs to Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb says the gate is always open, means the gate is open and you are invited again. You can come back. Derry says, but this is not mine. Derry says, but all these things does not belong to him. It was, they were belonging to Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb says, everything is yours if you want it. What is mine is anybody's. But again, Mr. Lamb showed his positivity. He was showing his, you can say, far-sightedness plus open-heartedness. He says he was having such open thoughts that Mr. Lamb told him that Mr. Lamb thought that everything belongs to him was belonging to others also. And the things which were belonging to others, they belong to him also. Derry says, so I could come here again. Even if you were out, I could come here. Derry wanted to ask that would he be able to have the permission to come inside the house even in Mr. Lamb's absence. Mr. Lamb says certainly, means yes, of course he could come. You might find others here, of course. Derry says, oh, Mr. Lamb, well, that need not stop you, need not mind. Mr. Lamb says that even if Mr. Lamb would not be there in his garden and if somebody else would be there, he should not stop himself. Derry should not stop, should not, you can say, put himself away from others. He should enjoy others' company. He should face the realities of life. He should face the people. He should meet people. He should enjoy their company. He should make them friendly. Mr. Lamb says, well, that need not stop you. Means if somebody else would be there, you should not stop yourself. Derry said, I would not stop them. They would mind me. According to Derry, the people, they would get tired of him. They would get fearful of him. They would not want his company. He would not stop himself, but the people, they actually would stop themselves. They would keep them away from Derry. When they saw me here, they look at my face and run. Means the people, they generally do this. They actually come across me and then they hate my face. They really feel that disgust and they run away from his presence. For today, we are going to end up here only. And tomorrow we will continue from the same page, page number 65. Till then, please keep learning. Please keep yourself safe. Stay back home. Thank you very much. Bye bye. See you.